Is this you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to the Sparkill Creek Watershed Characterization Community Presentation this evening. My name is Emily Vail. I'm the Executive Director of the Hudson River Watershed Alliance. We are so excited to have you all gathered here today because we have been working on Zoom for 2 years on this project, and it's just so exciting to be here in the Sparkill Creek Watershed and able to talk with you all about the project. So first, I'd like to invite Dr. Bianca Wentzell from St. Thomas Aquinas up to give a few words of welcome.
I am moving a little slowly today. Hi, everyone. I'm Bianca. Welcome to St. Thomas Aquinas College. We're so honored to be hosting this wonderful community presentation and discussion about the Sparkill watershed that we all know and love. I'm the Dean of the School of STEM here at St. Thomas Aquinas College, and I'm also a professor. I teach biology, ecology, and environmental science, so I guess you can probably guess why I'm here. My background is in wetland ecology, and many of my students have spent countless hours out in the Sparkill Creek. We're very lucky here at STAC to have the creek run right through our campus. So if you want a show and tell later, you can go out and just behind the dorms here, the Sparkill Creek does run behind the dorms, under the road, to the other side of campus where more of our dorms are. And I always bring my ecology students out every single year into the creek and teach them all about its wonders and all of the creepy crawly things that they get to know. We do a lot of macroinvertebrate work here in the creek. But anyway, I'm very honored to be a part of this working group that has been helping develop this characterization plan. Larry asked me in the depths of COVID if I would help participate, and I've been really happy to be a part of this great group of individuals who really cares about the creek. So honored to be working with the Hudson River group on this as well, and really excited for a great discussion today. So welcome, and can't wait to get the conversation started.
Next, I'd like to invite up Allison Kardon on behalf of the town of Orangetown.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Allison Kardon, confidential assistant to Orangetown Town Supervisor Teresa Kenny, who unfortunately wasn't able to attend tonight's presentation. I'm a member of the Sparkill Creek Watershed Characterization Advisory Committee, representing the town of Orangetown. At our meetings, I was always impressed by Emily Vail, the director of the Hudson River Watershed Alliance, who was extremely organized and always made sure everyone had a voice. My colleagues on the committee, who were equally as impressive, had given me and the town a new insight into the Sparkill Creek. Flooding along the Sparkill Creek is one of the most significant environmental concerns for the town of Orangetown. For my work with FEMA on 2 disasters almost a year apart, Tropical Storm Isaias and the remnants of Hurricane Ida, the frequency of flooding events is increasing. The town is looking to construct system-wide improvements along the creek, which cuts through many residential and commercial properties, in addition to the town and county sewer plants. And St. Thomas Aquinas. This characterization study, which summarized multiple aspects of the Sparkill Creek watershed, serves as a foundation for watershed planning, which will identify specific actions the town can take to alleviate flooding along the creek. As the person who works closely on grants for the town, the Sparkill Creek Watershed Characterization is an important first step to another grant the town is pursuing, which is a flood analysis along the creek. It has been an honor working with the committee, and I look forward to the final product. Thanks again to Emily Vail, the Hudson River Watershed Alliance, and all of their partners for their dedication to improving the Sparkill Creek. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Allison. Really appreciate that. And thanks so much to the town of Orangetown for all that you're doing for the Sparkill Creek. Next up is Anna Palmer from the Hudson River Estuary Program.
explain how to do this, Bianca?
I don't know.
Oh, thank you.
I only have one screen at home.
I know. I know.
Sorry.
Oh, is it already up?
Yes, there you go.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
Cool.
Two screens.
Yeah.
So then now I'll just press.
Oh, I have to. Maybe I'll. Thank you, people with two screens. All right. Well, hello, good evening, everyone, again. My name is Anna Palmer, and I am a source watershed specialist with the Hudson River Estuary Program. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Hudson River Estuary Program from a big picture perspective. For this project, I've been serving as the grant manager. So Hudson River Estuary Program, with a partnership through NUEPIC, has provided the funding for this project, which is really exciting. And yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the Hudson River Estuary Program as a whole and the importance of its tributaries. So the Hudson River Estuary Program is a special non-regulatory program of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. It was established in 1987 through the Hudson River Estuary Management Act. And we work through our action agenda to achieve the key benefits, which are listed on the slide. And the program area which we work in is the tidal Hudson River between the Federal Lock and Dam at Troy and the Verrazano Narrows. So we work in this area that's on the map. And really we're working to help protect, restore, and revitalize the Hudson River and its watershed. And the Sparkill Creek Watershed is an important part of that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the ways that the estuary program can continue to help local communities achieve their goals. And my contact information is at the end. So this is a very, big picture overview, but I love to make some more connections afterwards and with email after today. So a very important concept that's central to the watershed characterization, and Emily's going to go into this in much more detail, is a watershed. And I can tell by the room and the people that are here that most of you probably already know what a watershed is, but it is the area of land from which water drains to a common outlet. So it's all of the land area, and it can be really large, like the Hudson River Estuary, which has these high points, the dividing basin, which all the water that falls within that basin goes into the Hudson River Estuary and into the Atlantic Ocean. But it could also be a lot smaller. And I'm part of the watershed team at the Estuary Program, and we understand that working in these nested geographic units is a really effective way of managing land and water resources. And we work at these various scales within this physical stream by removing barriers and doing water quality monitoring. We help with repairing buffer planting within the corridor. This watershed characterization is at the sub-watershed scale. And to bring it back to the action agenda, one of our action agenda goals is by 2030 that at least 20 of these sub-watersheds have a watershed characterization. So Emily is helping us to achieve our measures of success and move forward with our action agenda, which is really exciting because this is one of the first watershed characterizations that has ever been completed. And yeah, within the basin, the estuary is a really special place, and we want everyone to feel like they're a community within a community of this epic ecosystem that we live within. So there's a lot of connections between the tributaries and the land. Essentially, this is the circulatory system bringing, all of the sediment and nutrients into the watershed and then back out. And we don't have time to go into all of this, but I just wanted to highlight that the Sparkill Creek is a direct tributary to the Hudson River Estuary, and it drains through Piermont Marsh, which has a lot of really important habitat, and you'll see it on all of the maps around. But it is the largest brackish tidal marsh within the Hudson River Estuary. It's one of our Hudson National Estuary Research Reserve stations that has a lot of really important science going on there. And yeah, it's at this confluence where, an estuary is the place where salt and freshwater meet, which supports a lot of biodiversity, really important biodiversity for New York State. And our habitat team, they've recently been working to protect this salt marsh by building these oyster castles, which will prevent erosion from for the saltwater marsh to continue to disappear, because it has a lot of really important habitat for the coastal Atlantic species that come here to spawn, and then the species that are here year round. Here are just a few of the species, the blueback herring and the terrapin turtle. So I encourage you to think about your fellow ecosystem partners, these really awesome species that are right here in our backyards as we're doing this work within the Sparkill Creek, because it's draining into Piermont Marsh and it's part of a bigger picture of the Hudson River Estuary. And we do a lot more stuff. I encourage you to check out some of these videos in your free time, highlighting some of the work that we do at the Estuary program. And again, we have a grant program. We have a lot of great technical assistance providers, such as myself, that can help you achieve your goals moving forward after this watershed characterization is complete. So I really hope that you can use us as a resource, because we really want to help the Sparkill Creek live up to its full potential and being a great part of this estuary as a whole. And yeah, we have great newsletters if you want to stay up to date about our grant announcements and other fun, opportunities. And if I have any time, I decided to put up some trivia questions. All of these, the answers to all 4 of these questions are between 150 and 250. So if you want to take a second to kind of guess a little bit, and again, that's the American eel, which is migrating here as we speak. There's lots of eels that are getting caught in our pike nets, and that's a short-nosed sturgeon, which spends most of its time just up in Haverstraw Bay. That's right in Haverstraw Bay, just a couple of miles upriver. So I'm going to put up the answers. Yay, that's the, well, there's 220 species of fish that are in the river, 208 direct tributaries to the Hudson River Estuary, one of which is the Sparkill Creek. It's 200 feet at its deepest depth, and yeah, it's 153 river miles that we're working to protect. And here is my contact information, but I'm really looking forward to hearing what Emily talks about and for all her partnership. So thank you. Next time we'll bring prizes for the trivia. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to use more than one screen.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
We got very good at this during the pandemic. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. Academic technology is a little bit beyond my current purview. So thank you so much, Bianca, again, for hosting and providing all the technical support that you've been providing, literal technical support. Okay, great. So again, my name is Emily Vail. I'm the Executive Director of the Hudson River Watershed Alliance. We're here to talk about the Sparkill Creek Watershed Characterization. I want to start with some project acknowledgements. We'll talk a little bit about the Hudson River and Sparkill Creek watersheds, the watershed planning and characterization process that we've been working through, the project process to date, where we are right now and where we're going in the very near future, some reflections, some thoughts on the Sparkill Creek, and then we will open it up to some next steps, conversation, and discussion. Okay, I'm gonna just turn. Okay. Great. So first, of course, I want to thank our funders. We just heard from Anna Palmer from the Hudson River Estuary Program. This work is supported by the Estuary Program in partnership with NUIPIG, and they've been supporting a whole suite of different program options for watershed groups, and this is just one of them. So we're really excited to have been doing the pilot here in the Sparkill Creek watershed and moving this work forward over the next year or two. I also want to give a huge thank you to all of our participants on our advisory committee. We already heard from Allison, but if you're on the advisory committee, could you just raise your hand? Because your work on this has been so important and insightful. We really could not have done it without you. So thank you so much. We have, yeah, exactly. We have our local, municipal, county, regional, it expands the whole bit. So academics, so on. So thanks everyone. Okay, the Hudson River Watershed Alliance is a regional nonprofit that works throughout the Hudson River watershed to support watershed groups, help municipalities work together on water issues, and communicate as a collective voice. We also work on developing pilot projects with specific watersheds to share lessons learned across the region, of which this is one. You might know us from our annual Watershed Conference. We have monthly breakfast webinars on Zoom, and then, of course, direct work with watershed groups like the Sparkill Creek Watershed Alliance. Anna gave a great introduction, so I don't need to dwell on this. Watershed is the land area that flows to a specific water body. It's fed by rain, groundwater, surface water like streams, and it's defined by topography and the lay of the land. Watersheds are the geographic unit best suited to understanding and managing our water bodies. And Anna gave great examples. Larger watersheds can be broken into smaller sub-watersheds so that we can understand those conditions as well. So as we are thinking about the Sparkill Creek watershed, it really includes the land, the water, the people, all of these different components of the watershed ecosystem. So the Hudson River watershed from the Adirondacks all the way down to New York City is 13,400 square miles. It's really quite large. And we can divide that into the Upper Hudson, the Mohawk River, and the Hudson River Estuary watersheds. And we can further divide that into every tributary having its own watershed as well. So here's our map of the whole Hudson watershed. Of course, we're right down here at the very southern extent here. And this is a regional map that shows, again, that same watershed area here with the Sparkill Creek watershed highlighted. So the Sparkill Creek watershed is about 11 square miles. It includes the municipalities of the town of Orangetown and village of Piermont in Rockland County and the boroughs of North Vail, Rockley, Norwood, and Alpine in Bergen County. Do we have any New Jersey folks in the house? Okay, 2 is better than 1. That's great. Great. Welcome. 4. Okay, we're growing. That's great. I think one of the really interesting parts about this watershed in particular is that it crosses into 2 states. You'll see on a lot of these maps, we've been able to pull in information from New York and also learn how to get this analogous information in New Jersey and put it all together because, of course, there is a pretty significant part of the watershed right here in New Jersey. So this is the Sparkill Creek. You probably know it. Here's the headwaters. It comes down. The Sparkill Brook meets it right about at the state line, and it goes into the Hudson River at Piermont Marsh. So when we're working on watershed planning, the framework, and really planning of all kinds, the framework that we use is we start with an understanding of current conditions to really understand where things are at the present moment. We can set goals for future conditions based on where we currently are, and then identify strategic actions to get from the present to the future. So the real foundation of watershed planning is this understanding of current conditions so that we can set those goals and identify what strategies can solve problems, maintain healthy streams, keep habitat intact, and so on. So again, this central piece of understanding current conditions is where the watershed characterization process comes in. So this is a process that compiles existing information from different sources together into one report to tell the watershed story. And again, I love this map. This is bedrock geology. New York State and New Jersey have classified bedrock slightly differently. That's okay. We've got it all in one map together, and we can take a look at that and exactly what that means. Watershed characterizations and plans support an understanding of local conditions for local decision-making and actions. And it, again, provides that foundation for planning by identifying problems and gaps before identifying potential solutions. We know that planting trees is really good. We know that trash cleanups are really good. But what's going to be most impactful to help the Sparkill Creek watershed improve? That's where something like a watershed characterization can really help. So planning is really important to build capacity as well. It helps groups work efficiently, share leadership, engage more people, identify key roles for different partners. Watershed problems are too complex for any one group to solve alone. One municipality can't do it. The state alone can't do it. Sparkill Creek Watershed Alliance alone can't do it, but they do so much regardless. And so having this watershed planning process is really critical to having all of the partners come together, figure out who can do what, and really move the needle forward, bringing folks together across boundaries, across sectors, and solving problems really creatively. So we can use this planning framework to break down the planning process into the first step of watershed characterization, followed by goal setting and identifying strategic actions as the watershed management plan. There are some planning processes that do all 3 at once, and those are long, and expensive and sometimes very challenging. And so part of this pilot project was trying to understand how can we divide this process into more meaningful pieces that we could accomplish in 2 years with more modest funding? What could we accomplish in the next 2 years with a different source of funding? So trying to break this down to allow for some of that momentum, to enable people with different skill sets to participate, and so on. I've also seen watershed management plans be further divided, where goal setting can be one piece, and then you could do a watershed implementation plan as the third piece. So I think having some of these options can be really helpful, particularly with a watershed as complex as this one, in really understanding how to move from point A to point B strategically. So another way of framing this is from the EPA's watershed planning framework, is to define goals. And I think goal definition is really important throughout the watershed characterization and planning process. Delineating your watershed, convening your stakeholders, piling existing data through the watershed characterization process. And here, we've really put together information about the watershed as comprehensively as possible into one, hopefully easy to use document. Things like physical characteristics, land use, land cover, local land use plans, habitat, water quality and quantity, water infrastructure, demographics, information about people, and previous plans. All of that comes together into the watershed characterization, which then allows us to identify any gaps, which helps us prioritize research or monitoring what information still needs to be gathered. It helps us communicate about the watershed. Here's what we know, and provides that foundation for future planning. So these steps are really core to the characterization. And these steps are around prioritizing actions, implementing the plan. This is really about the plan. So in New York State, the New York State Department of State and Department of Environmental Conservation have a guidebook on watershed plans that provides a framework for watershed planning. And that's what we used for this particular watershed characterization. They've got a whole section on that watershed characterization step that we use throughout this process. Oh, great. So in terms of this specific process, in June 2022, the Hudson River Watershed Alliance had an application for technical assistance for groups to create a watershed characterization. We had funding from the Hudson River Estuary Program and NUIPIC, and we put out a call, who would like to do one of these? And we got a great application from Larry at the Sparkill Creek Watershed Alliance. As our applicant, Larry has been our local point of contact for the process. And then together we created the Watershed Characterization Advisory Committee. And the roles of that group were to really advise, gather information, and support community engagement, and invite all you folks to come hear about this process and provide your feedback as well. The Hudson River Watershed Alliance has been managing the project. We facilitate the advisory committee meetings. We write the watershed characterization report and provide the presentation to the community. That's tonight. We have received a lot of support through this process, and I want to acknowledge the work of Karen Strong from Strong Outcomes, Adirondack Research, and Greek Ghost Maps, who created these beautiful maps that are displayed around the room, and Dr. Kate Meyer-Dirks from Siena College as well. So as I mentioned, we've been working on this project for 2 years across many Zoom meetings, working together collaboratively through these remote tools. We started back in September of 2022. We had a series of advisory committee meetings, developing an outline of the report, a first draft of the report based on accessible state information. Then in 2023, we had a process for the advisory committee to submit local information, reports, plans, projects that were then reviewed and incorporated into the plan. We've been working with our GIS consultant on maps, and we are getting ready to share the final draft with you all by the end of April. So the watershed characterization outline, we got a lot of questions during this process of what actually goes into a watershed characterization. And we've outlined basically the table of contents and a lot of these maps. They fall under the categories of the watershed physical characteristics, things like topography, geology, soils, climate, and climate change. The lands of the watershed, like land use, land cover, local land use plans, forests, wetlands, significant habitats, and the built environment. The waters of the watershed include floodplains, riparian areas, aquatic habitats, water quality, and water infrastructure, and the people of the watershed as well, demographics, social vulnerability, recreation, and watershed groups. This whole process was guided by a Quality Assurance Project Plan, or a QAP, and the QAP defines a process for evaluating sources of information that go into the watershed characterization. So every plan, project, we got lots of PDFs, we got lots of web maps, went through a screening process to look at, is this information from within the focus watershed, or is it actually in the Minnesiongo Creek, and then it's not relevant to the Sparkill Creek. But it'll be great for the Minnesiongo Creek watershed characterization. Does it inform an understanding of current watershed conditions? Are there specific details about data collection and methodology so we know this is high quality data? And how will the information be used? So the information that came in, we're using in a variety of different ways. Some of it goes on the maps, some of it is in the narrative, some of it is a link to more information, and some of it we've used to create tables. So well over 60 reports, plans, data sets were submitted, and it's taken quite a long time to churn through all of that information, but what a wealth of information is available about this small watershed. This is probably one of the most studied and in that way beloved watersheds that we have in the Hudson River watershed. So I wanted to give a little insight into this part of the process because in addition to the actual report, which is going to be a PDF that includes maps and narrative, we're also organizing all of this data and really creating a reference library that will be available for future work on the Sparkill. So each record goes into our tracking spreadsheet. We've got a Google Drive folder system, and this helps us, again, highlight what is most important to understand about current watershed conditions so that we can springboard off of that to inform planning. So this is what it looks like. This is one of my tracking spreadsheets of all the information we've received. This spreadsheet will be publicly available. This is the one that has all the information that's used in the maps. So if you're going to be working on a mapping project that includes the Sparkill Creek, it's got all the state information, New York, New Jersey, it's got local information, it's got it all organized for you. So these layers can be used again. And then we've also got everything organized in this Google Drive file system. So if you want to know about riparian areas of the watershed, you can go to that folder and find the information that you're interested in. So there's a lot of information, and at our very first kickoff meeting, the advisory committee said that one of the priorities of this project is really compiling all available information into one place. So as we've been working on the characterization, it's been really important to have the form follow that function and have the framing of the outline give a roadmap into how to find the information you need with the level of detail that you need. If you need the specific water quality measurement, you can click on the link and find out more. If you want to know that these projects have taken place, that'll be available as well. So we're hoping that the characterization provides that framework that can keep all of that information and that institutional knowledge really organized and then used for different projects as well. And I do think what's unique about this project is taking information from so many different sources. So from the local level to the state, federal, and so on. So in terms of where we are right now, all of the information has been reviewed. I am working on writing the report, which is expected at the end of April. Really excited to share that with you all. We're collecting your email addresses so that when it's done, we can email it to you. And in terms of today's meetings, our goal is really to share the project with you, make sure that a broader group of people really knows what this project is about, in addition to all of the folks who've been working more closely on the advisory committee. We wanted to share the maps in particular. We've printed out 12 out of the 18 total that are included in the characterization report. They're displayed around the room here. We hope you'll take a look at them. And we want to get your feedback on priorities, questions, ideas, and gaps, and hoping to start discussing next steps as well. So some of the themes that have come across as we've been working with the advisory committee, working on the maps, working on writing the watershed characterization, is that this is a really unique and special watershed. It's the only natural cut in the Palisades Escarpment, and we have water flowing off the west side of the Palisades into the Sparkill Creek, flowing into the Hudson River through the Sparkill Gap. The watershed has a really rich history with all kinds of different types of developments that have had different impacts on the creek over time. This is a land use land cover map that shows development in red. The forested areas are green. So lots of development here along the creek. And the built environment map shows some of the impacts of the built environment, things like bulk storage facilities and Superfund sites and so on. And at the same time, the watershed provides really important habitat, terrestrial, wetland, and aquatic habitat. It provides that really important connection to the Hudson River through the Piermont Marsh. This map shows significant habitats, including those terrestrial, aquatic, and wetland species. The watershed has great forests in its headwaters, both the southern extent of headwaters here and the northern extent of headwaters here. There are rich wetland resources as well along the creek, and then also in some of those uplands, not to mention the tidal marsh. We know that flooding is a priority and a real challenge here in this watershed, particularly with the location of a lot of the built environment to the creek and in the floodplain. There's been many flood studies, most recently in 2022 through the Resilient New York program, which we're looking at. And also knowing that climate change and more extreme storms, the risk of sea level rise poses a threat to the Sparkill Creek watershed as well. Water quality is the second priority and challenge that's really been raised as part of this process. There have been many, many studies on the Sparkill Creek looking at bacteria, nutrients, benthic macroinvertebrates, chemicals, organic chemicals, and many other parameters. This is a map of some of the many water quality sites. And I think the water quality section in particular really hits home because we've got students working at a variety of levels on the Sparkill from St. Thomas Aquinas and others. We've got county studies, we've got Riverkeeper, EPA has done studies, the DEC has done studies, New Jersey has done studies, there have been cleanup studies. We have so much rich information about this watershed. And that really speaks to the number of people that care and love this creek and this watershed as well. So again, we've seen the amazing contributions, the amazing efforts of educators, local government, college students, scientists, state and federal agency staff, private sector engineers and experts, and so many community volunteers. So hats off to you all for your work on this amazing watershed. So in terms of some next steps, the full watershed plan will help interpret a lot of that information once it's all organized and laid out in the characterization. It will help prioritize strategic actions. We'll hear from Larry about the Sparkill Creek Watershed Alliance and opportunities to get involved. And the watershed characterization is also an eligible action for the Climate Smart Communities program. So if Orangetown or Piermont are interested in submitting that for points, you'll be able to do so. So today, while you're all here in the room, we want to make sure we have time for questions and answers and discussion. And we're really looking for your feedback. So again, we've got maps printed out here. I gave a very broad brush of some of the themes that we've seen in the watershed, but really you all know your watershed much better than I ever could. And so we want to get some insight from you on what your questions or ideas are related to the watershed. What are you excited about? What are you concerned about? Where do you see gaps? So a piece of this is understanding where information might be missing, or we could prioritize some studies to get that information. And what next steps of this work would you like to see? So we've got over in that corner behind the maps, you can look if you want. There's sticky notes on the table, and there's big post-it sheets. Is that what the sticky sheets? Thank you. So feel free to put a post-it up on the sheet there and let us know your feedback. Of course, you can always email me. We can have conversations. But again, we're really hoping to get your feedback because we know that you know your creek and have so much insight to share that we can incorporate then into the final draft of the characterization. So with that, I will take questions, answers, discussion. We'll open it up for conversation. A couple minutes. Thank you. Any questions? Or, yeah.
Where was the Sparkill Creek originated?
Larry, you want to take that one?
Where
Well, you know, Cleveland Mountain Road.
Yes.
And so if you go up Cleveland Mountain Road, and it's basically on both sides of the road. There's a little valley on the right, and there's a little valley on the left. And it comes out of that state park that's on the left, and out of the county park that's on the right, which so, you want me to point on the map?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah,
oh my goodness. So the Sparkill Creek goes all the way up, and you can see where it forks, right up there. Oh, thank you. And then, so that gray line is the road that you would go up towards Tweed Boulevard. And you know, you're going up quite a high ascent, so that means water comes down pretty quickly. And there's a little branch to the south there. That's right, and that goes through a state park. It goes through the county park and through a town park, Tacamac Park. There's another half of the town park on the other side, on the north side of Pleasant Mountain Road, and a state park. And you can kind of see that horseshoe-shaped development right up there. Yeah, and so it goes behind that. So basically, the ridge along Tweed Boulevard divides the Hudson and the Sparkill. So everything to the west flows down this way, and everything here flows into Piermont. So anyway, does that answer your question? Oh, you stopped me a long time ago.
We have a map. We have a map over here too that we can take a closer look at.
Tacamac Park.
Yeah. Yes.
Had that large reservoir there.
Yes. Well, there's
Whatever
yeah.
That reservoir
Yeah.
was for the.
That's the Sparkill.
Yeah, that so it actually originated more from Tacamac Park because it comes down right past my house. There's a waterfall. It is, and of course during Floyd, our house was floating. We had to get a huge berm to protect it, but that's where it really originates.
So you should have answered the question. Okay.
That was common.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the people on Greenbush Road, it goes on the right, on the north side of my house. It's a.
Yes, I know exactly where you.
People should go on Greenbush Road.
Yeah.
My house number is 309, and if you look.
Greenbush Road is right here for people.
That's right. It, to the left.
Yeah.
Is where my house is. And it's just that wall just inundates my neighbors across the street. It's actually the water, when it comes down the mountain and crosses 303, the creek, I don't know why, but it makes a sharp left-hand turn, but water wants to go where it wants to go.
It's something that we have pretty well documented, but you explained it quite well.
And also, I have called since we bought the house. Highway department, but Greenbush Road is a state road. And I always call, I used to have the summer, so I would call highway department to try to clean out the Sparkill Creek. There's branches and debris. Nothing ever gets done. And that is, it needs to be from Tacamac all the way down to Mountain View Avenue when it goes into Tappan. All that has to be cleaned out. But nobody's doing it. They do a little here and a little there. But across the street from me, when that was all woods, that used to just flood right up to the road. But they cut down all the trees and put in houses. So now we're stuck.
Also, there was a fire, Larry. What was the effect of the fire on Plaza?
I don't know. You know, I mean, there was a big fire up there, but I'm not sure that I haven't seen an effect of it.
Okay.
So I think, Larry, if you want to give your presentation, we might have easier discussion.
Well, it's up to you.
Yeah, let's do that. So thank you for your comments. That sounds like a gap, right? And so as we're thinking about gaps, we're thinking about information, procedural gaps, jurisdictional gaps. This is all stuff that we want to get out on the table. So
get whatever Orangetown Highway Department, I don't know. How do we get to start cleaning up that brook so the water, it's pretty, so the water flows better?
that's a question we're gonna have to look into.
Yeah. So,
We're gonna- yeah.
okay, so I'll do that, and then we'll have time for all kinds of questions. Okay, okay. Now. Oh, how do
Hit the escape. Oh, yeah.
Wait.
escape? Escape. Just-
And while we're doing that, I'll just mention that we've got, this map in particular. Oh.
Yeah, and now let's go to the screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. It's great that we asked the only person that has crutches to come up here. All right. Okay. Well, I hope we have time for some discussion here. I just want to talk a little bit about our Sparkill Creek Watershed Alliance group. But first, let me just mention that I'm really grateful to Emily. I did apply for this grant, and I could have said, you know, Emily, we're in the same family somehow, and you have to give this to us. I didn't think that was going to work, but my thinking was that the Sparkill Creek, out of the 3,000, was it, square miles, we've got 12, and that's a great thing, because that means that we can be an extremely good demonstration project for these kinds of events. So depending on how well we do with this, it will influence, I hope, a lot of other watersheds in New York State. So that's all up to us. The other thing I'd like to do is just talk, ask, I see we have a whole bunch of our members who actually came to that and were able to come from different states. Can you raise your hand if you're part of the Alliance? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, great. So I'm going to tell you about the Sparkill Creek Watershed Alliance, and this is obviously Piermont, where it comes out in the marsh. We were organized in 2010. Lori Seaman was the driving force behind that, and we basically focused. We can focus on a lot of things, but we focused on problems, and as a lot of groups do in this, you know, oh, this is a problem, like flooding, the exact same problem that you're describing. Everybody is very rightfully upset about a lot of things. So we focused on problems. Some of those problems, well, we just got through mentioning flooding. It's an immensely difficult problem to solve. Otherwise, it wouldn't be everywhere. Riparian damage, by that I mean the corridor that the stream is in just gets destroyed by floodwaters and other factors. And water quality. Water quality, in some ways, the Sparkill isn't that bad, but in other ways, it's pretty bad. So this is what we have to deal with. For water quality, we've done a couple of things here. Now, we've done a lot of, basically our job has been to do testing and to try to bring those results in front of authorities that have some sort of power to correct the situation. So we've been doing bacteria testing since 2011. Now, when I say we don't get other people's help. We actually help them. So this program was mostly through Riverkeeper, and two Riverkeeper people were gonna come. Is anybody here from Riverkeeper? Well, Shannon wrote back, and also, well, I'll think of it. Thank you, John Lipscomb. Both said that they were going to come. I emailed back and forth, but John said I might be able to come. So this wouldn't have happened without John Lipscomb. He was the one that asked us to help him do the sampling, and it was really wonderful. Got us off to a good start, and we tested then for another 10 years. We also did some work with Queens College and also the Soil and Water Conservation District through Jim Dean's district. helped fund us to do some even more sophisticated bacterial testing on the Sparkill. There's other kinds of contamination. There's the trash in the creek. Again, we don't do it all, but we do partner with Keep Rockland Beautiful every year to do a cleanup of the creek. And this is just one of the events. We've done them now every year, sometimes twice a year. Flooding. Like we just talked about, this is a difficult problem, but I'm pretty sure that you got to start off by having a plan to deal with it, because it isn't something that you just do one little thing. You have to do some pretty massive operation to correct decades of development that have caused a lot of problems here. So our input here has been to inform and to advocate for better planning. And to do that, we were at least present and giving our views at the Orangetown Comprehensive Plan process in the last couple of years. We also told a lot about to the engineering company who did the New York State flooding study. The company was called SLR. And I don't know, but I talked a lot to them and our members talked a lot to them. And I noticed that the Sparkill Creek was probably one of the smallest of the 48 creeks that they studied in New York State, but we have the biggest report. Now, that either means that they got a lot of information from us or we got a lot of problems. So anyway, that's been done and that's going to be very helpful in the future. You know, one of the great things about having somebody like Emily Vail here is that this isn't her first involvement in the Sparkill Creek. When she worked for the DEC, she was part of the Tappan Zee High School Green Infrastructure Project. And if you don't know about that, go see it. Here's a little example of it. The idea is that these detention basins and rain garden take the runoff from the parking lot and put it into the ground rather than down to the creek, which is only a quarter mile away. So we only need 100 of these, but this is a start. And she was very influential in making that project happen. And of course, the big thing that I think in planning is today's characterization project and how we go forward with that. Damage and solutions. Well, this is just one little example of what happens to stream banks when there's too much stormwater and too much impervious surface above it. And one of the things that we've tried to do, whatever you can do, is to help plant trees along the stream. It stabilizes the bank, provides shade and other things too. It's a habitat thing, but in terms of bank stabilization, the roots will help keep that bank from ending up in Piermont. So just to kind of last couple slides here, I just kind of want to remind myself that a suburb is a place where we still have a lot of nature. It's not a dense city. It's certainly not a rural farmland, but we mix a lot of people with a lot of nature. And so what can we do in this room is that we need to provide some awareness about problems. And why do I say that? So on our committee, we had a meeting one day and Jim Dean here submitted the obvious statement. He says, people don't know about the creek. They're not aware of it. They don't think about it. I mean, I probably wouldn't, but you know, you see, there's a problem, then you see it. They're not really aware that they're in a watershed. They're not aware of the issues that go on with watershed. We're all aware of a lot of things. We have a lot of distractions, but creeks are not usually one of them. So we have to have that awareness, and coming with that is appreciation. And I just kind of ask myself, do we have that appreciation, or do we have, or ever have had that appreciation and concern? I was very impressed when Neil, I forgot your last name, but Lenedy. Neil is with the Orangeburg Fire Department. And he wrote in his, you know, you all filled out a little registration form. And he put Brookside, the Brookside Game Protective Association, the Brookside Association. And it reminded me of a little history. So I was really glad to dig up this photo. the Sparkill has a great tradition of people being concerned about it, people liking it, people using it. This is a photo, I think about the 1940s. I don't know when it was, but it looks like that, of the Brookside Game Protective Association that was established in 1913. In 1913, all you history buffs will remember that's when the national park movement really kind of took speed up. This is the Teddy Roosevelt era. And their idea of protection was great, but it also involved a lot of hunting and fishing. They said, look, we want to protect this stuff so we can hunt. And there's nothing wrong with that. That was a great concept. And it left us with a legacy of public lands that we still have today. Well, the Brookside Game Protective Association in 1913 started out that process in the Sparkill watershed. And then as development happened, Sparkill Creek Watershed Protective Association, started by Barbara Porta in the 1960s, was a fabulous environmentalist. And she wanted to protect against the incoming effects of housing and development and highways and all the things that we all see today. And she did a great job. The Sparkill Watershed Conservancy I was familiar with starting around 2001, and then of course our group. So here's our group in a tree planting in 2012. And by the way, out of all the people here, and they weren't all active members of our group, there's a lot of people helping. There's only 2 or 3 that are still active. So what's the message there? It's that things change. You have to keep replacing and growing and involving more people that have new ideas. And when I first kind of got involved with any of this kind of work, well, let me say one thing first. Have you ever heard anybody say, what are you waiting for, an invitation? And I know I always answer, yes, I am waiting for an invitation. I'm not sticking my nose in somewhere where I'm not wanted. Well, I saw a notice on a telephone pole that said, meet about the Sparkill Creek. And that's when, in about 20 years ago, you know, a bunch of people all got together and met about that. And now we have an even stronger organization that we started. So if you're waiting for an invitation, this is it, okay? Now, how can you get involved? I don't know. You know, Emily said that my talk was something about next steps. I don't know the next steps, but I know that there won't be any next steps unless there's more people involved, because if we don't please people like you, then we're not doing it for anybody except a few people, and that doesn't make any difference. How can you help the watershed plan process as this goes forward? I think Emily would agree. Anybody's welcome. We want to hear from what you need, what your concerns are really valid. And there's many things that we want to hear from you. But if you want to do something just a little simpler and less, you know, map oriented and maybe meeting oriented, we've got a cleanup on April 20th. Come on by and you can help us pick up trash and you know, meet some of the people that also want to do the same thing, which is great. We've also got another tree planting on May 4th. So, you know, come to that. That's going to be in Tappan Church. We have details of this. You can ask me for them. We don't have enough time for that now. But I would just say that anybody, anytime, is always welcome to either ask us questions, show us everything you know, tell us your leadership skills, or just stop by and say hello. So there's my contact information, and I really appreciate it. Okay, thank you.
Question for me.
Jim Elling, a member of our group.
Yeah. The person who started the most recent Sparkill Creek Watershed Alliance is sitting right here, Lori C.
There you go. Okay. I'm going to turn back over to, oh, go ahead.
So I get the impression that the answer to this is going to be like, that's the next step, but where are we in terms of next steps to get the water in the like Ferdon Pond area swimmable? Don't laugh. High school. Just
that is a perfectly good question. It would have to be classified what, B? You know, it would have to be reclassified in the New York State scheme of things. I don't know how you do that, but that's officially swimmable.
But in terms of my impression is that it's mostly like, I forget the exact terminology, but like non-point specific source contaminant, like organic matter contamination. We don't know exactly where that's coming from. So that's sort of personally where I'm interested in knowing how to get there eventually.
That's-
Yeah. Yeah, look, I don't have the answer to that question. It's a complex question, but it's gonna take some work. And I'm hoping maybe Emily can tell me so you have a plan, that means you have goals swimmable in term, okay? So how do you get there? There's a whole planning process with projects and implementation, and you know, it isn't gonna happen overnight, but we've got to start at some point, and I'm hoping you can answer that.
Yeah, well, I think, so again, we're gonna close the formal part of the presentations and then open it up to discussion. And, you know, in terms of what next steps you wanna see, that's a great goal to put down. There have been so many studies on bacteria and water quality, and I think compiling those all to really understand what will make the most impact in improving the kind of water quality to promote swimming will be helpful. There's a great watershed plan in the city of Hudson for a little lake called Oakdale Lake right in the city. Would be a good case study to take a look at. They had to do a lot of stormwater and wastewater analysis to understand how that watershed plan could work. So there's good case studies out there for, I think, unlikely public bathing beaches in dense places. So that's the kind of information that we'd love to collect from more folks. Yeah. Before we close, again, the formal portion, and thank you so much to Larry for his work on the Sparkill Creek Watershed Alliance, everyone who participated in this amazing group. I wanted to make an announcement that the Rockland County Hazard Mitigation Plan is being updated, and that the public review period is open until April 22nd, and you can access it by scanning the QR code on your phone and getting more information. So another really, really important tool to getting funding towards flood mitigation projects is getting your concerns listed in the Rockland County Hazard Mitigation Plan. So take advantage of this now. There's more on the table over there, which you can pick up when you go and look at the maps.
And tell your friends to get flooded.
Yes.
Speak out.
Spread the word. This is a really great opportunity to get your insights in as well.
One more thing, there's a monthly meeting of the Sparkill Creek Watershed Alliance every month in Sparkill, of course, at the Christ Church. It's a great place to gather and learn and exchange. And
When's the next meeting?
Third Mondays.
Third Mondays.
What time? 6:30. And see me about it. I'll tell you more than you want to know. Or you can go to our website, usually posted on there. But we always have it 6:30 at the Parish House, Christ Church, Sparkill, third Monday.
Bring muffins.
And on that note, thank you so much for coming. Please give us your feedback. Really looking forward to continuing the conversations with you all. There's a lot available in the area. Yeah, what do you got? Yes, I was wondering if the rain from there was the weekend. Okay.